communication? Are you going to have them come into your office once a week? I really want to know you as an individual coach, what you're going to be doing, because as an evaluator, I'm not just going to say yes, no, 20 points, 10 points. I'm going to respond back to you and tell you that I think, you've got something that's phenomenal, or something that, hey, here's an idea that you might consider.
So with someone like that, being in their 60s, he might be a little old school, that he might not be technologically inclined. And so I would have them do this in different ways, but the way that I do it now is I have them track, what they're doing. Track the open-faced steak sandwich and just track their daily eating, just so they get used to it, because most likely he's never tracked before in his life. So he might think it's completely ridiculous, and he might be resistant at first. So either if he doesn't know how to use technology, I'd have him start writing stuff down in a book and giving me 3 or 4 solid days of information and data, and then bring him back in and face to face and go over, okay, this is what you did. This is where you're at with your totals. Do you understand how much fat you're actually eating, or how much carbs you're not eating or are eating, or lack of protein or too much? And so when they see that, they're like, wow, I didn't know I was doing that much. So naturally, they already are thinking, like, I need to reduce this, and this is what I do. And so then I come up with, now I have data of food that they like and that they've been kind of eating and dabbling with. And then I expand from there, where I kind of go over, okay, well, what can we replace this with instead? And then just starting to develop new habits right there. And then I do give them their macronutrients ranges. I give them a little bit wider range to deal with, so that way they don't feel like so rigid. And so I started navigating, like, okay, how are you going to hit 100 grams of protein? Let's go over that first. And then they go over the options of foods that they have, just what they think protein is. Because my mom, for example, thought protein was peanut butter. And so just trying to give them the definition of what protein is, and then going over what carbs are, and then fats. And then breaking it down that way, where now they have an understanding, now let's apply it. So here are your macros. I want to see you try to shoot for hitting 100 grams of protein. Even if your carbs aren't perfect or your fats aren't perfect, let's just try and hit protein first. And so once he starts changing his habits and doing that and start nailing that, it becomes second nature. Now let's focus on carbs. Because naturally, if he focuses on better protein sources, he's going to have his fats going to lower quite a bit. And so really the fats are kind of in check, because he got his protein really in check, and he was eating better sources, and I kind of guided him through that. And then we focus on the carbs. That's just everything kind of left over. And by the time he gets done with doing well with the protein and fats, usually everyone typically kind of understands the carb aspect. They're like, I can nail my carbs. The first few weeks are really the digging in and understanding, like, what they're doing, breaking it down, telling them, hey, maybe try this instead. Your fats are really high. You shouldn't have 30 grams in a meal. Let's break it down and help with satiety and digestion. Once they see that and do it, they feel better. And then we get a good week or two of data of consistency, and then they see the weight loss. They're like, wow, this is crazy. But if it's really dramatic, then I'll increase food a little bit to give them that feeling and sense of, like, wow, I need more food, because 1,800 is probably on the lower side. And I know that coming in, assuming he is doing the workouts and he's not struggling with it, because it's a good feeling, at least for me, if I get more food. Even if it's 100 calories or 25 carbs, feels like gold. And so he might think, wow, I get like more carbs. Cool, I get more cereal. So that's kind of the process that I go through, and it's just rigid monitoring from there, and going over different social situations and understanding how to navigate through them.
So all of what Tyler said, if you were to type that out, that might be 2 to 3 pages of dialogue and instruction. And you guys may not have time to go that far, but I do want you to know that you have to have thought through this process before you get to the exam, and then you can articulate that on the exam with a little bit more precision, and saying, we'll do this, then we'll do this, and we'll do this. But it is important to get that kind of flow in there, because I really do want to know your process. And the important thing is for you to even think beyond that. Like, what do you do with your clients when they start reaching their goals? Or if they're reaching the end of their programming and they have met all their goals or they have not met all their goals, what is your process? Are you going to do something to help renew them? And I'm not going to get very deep into this, but there are different ways to model your program. Tyler and I are describing a very personal one-on-one consulting relationship. I think that's very important for you guys to start out that way because you're going to learn so much from your clients. It's also a natural business progression. You do so extremely well with clients like this, and your business is going to grow, and then pretty soon you need to leverage your time a little bit. So you might have different levels of programming. Maybe you have clients who don't need quite as much, they're already efficient, and you can do some group type work. All kinds of ways you can do that, but we're not going to really talk about that. Tier 3 in NAMS really gets into the health and fitness entrepreneurship, where we dig very deep into business models and strategies and all that. For right now, I think it's very important for you to take this kind of a very one-on-one situation seriously as the base model for your programming and then grow from there. So one of the things that Tyler could discuss on the exam for the process is, how he would help them transition to maintenance. But there's a couple more components that I want to talk about, and I'm not going to explain them with such detail that it sounds like this is exactly how the exam asks it, because I have to tell you that we are updating exams and our procedures pretty often because of the feedback we're getting, and we see the results of our students, and we want to improve our own process. So the next couple sections have everything to do with those if-and scenarios. So we're going to put those for you. So you've got that client narrative, that intake form, and we might ask you, if the client stops losing weight in the third week, what do you do? And we've already talked about that extensively in the last video. What if your client reports that they're binging to you? What do you do? If your client comes down with an illness, what do you do? What if your client has a car accident and sues you because they say your diet made them pass out? There are tons of if-and things, and these are not answers you're going to necessarily find in the books here or the video. No. I want you to be thinking of these real-life situations because these are clients, and you're managing in part their health. It's a pretty grave responsibility.
You'll be mind blown some of the stuff that comes at your way. You're like, I never even would have thought of that. And then it's kind of fun. You get the experience of, wow, this is kind of a challenge. Mm-hmm. And so there's many times I've come to you where I'm like, Joe, I'm perplexed on this. I have no idea what to do. And he helped me navigate through it. So that's kind of what I do. I just go back to square one and just navigate through the things that we talked about in the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. So you're gonna have 2 case studies, and they are random. Our proctored online testing center platform will generate these examples. 3 slices of pizza instead of having to get all of that from rice or pasta or something else. So pizza, yeah. So some strategies there that you guys are gonna kind of run the gamut there in terms of what you're gonna see on the case studies. But so far, Tyler, as you've seen students come through, we have yet, and we're recording this video, so this may not hold true, we have yet to see somebody fail, but they've gotten close. And the mistakes I've seen are a couple people just didn't do well on the exam, the questions, and so you gotta study, you gotta know that stuff. But then the case studies, some people either just weren't descriptive enough or they ran out of time. One person ran out of time before they could even do the second case study. I'm not going to tell you how long the exam is because we may change it, but we started with 2 hours and a couple people didn't make it, so we extended it to 2.5. Our goal is not to make this into this kind of stuff. I took the academic portion of the exam without the case studies, and I finished the whole thing in like 15 or 16 minutes, but I missed a couple. Ironically, I built the test, but I still missed a couple because I didn't study for it. But that shows the extremes. If you're kind of speeding through, you certainly don't have to, but you can get through it that quickly. Most importantly, it's take your time on the case studies. That's where you're going to get the majority of your points.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to understand your proficiency, and we're going to be able to give you some feedback. That's the important thing.
That's the goal right there. I think the stuff that Joe in detail gives the feedback of the reasons why and understanding your thought process and knowing what you're doing throughout the consultation and putting everything together and giving the feedback of, hey, you did this, but this might have been better or different, or I see where you're going with this, and you did a good job here, and knowing the points where you're strong at, and then the points where you might have need work at. And I think that's, as I was reading through, I'm like, this is really good feedback.
Yeah, I appreciate that because we take your success seriously. It's a big responsibility what you're about to embark on, and we know you've learned a lot through this course. We know you're going to do well on the exam. We know you're going to pass. You're going to be a certified NAMS nutrition consultant, and we want to make sure that you're doing well for your clients. So you're going to see that we're very serious in our mission statement of we build coaches, and that's going to be long term. We're going to